Is it oh yeah, sorry Tom. Hi everyone, my name's Faye.
And my name's Tom, and together we are the Divorce Coaching Podcast.
We're both really excited because we're both divorce coaches and we want to support, educate and help people who maybe are going through a separation or divorce, maybe they're struggling in their relationship during lockdown, maybe an affair's been uncovered, and we want to lift the lid on things like co-parenting, step parents, trauma, abuse, healing, affairs, and lots of things that people don't talk about. So it's really, really exciting.
Also helping you with tools and techniques and little tips along the way to help you rebuild your confidence and self-esteem, help you figure out the life that you want thereafter, after your separation or your divorce, and how you can move forward more positively. The reason that Faye and I have come together, that's just a bit obvious, we're both divorce coaches and specialists in this area, but of course, one is female, one is male. We both come at it with different approaches, different experiences, different ideas, but with ultimately the end goal to help people through what is a really challenging time. We haven't done this before, so you have to bear with us, and we're also getting used to the technology, not Zoom, but just recording it. So first off, what I'd like to do is get a bit of an introduction from Faye and find out a little bit about your story and your journey, Faye, from where you were to where you are now.
Thanks, Tom. Oh my gosh, how long have we got? I'll try and condense it as much as I can. So I started my coaching business about a year ago, probably 18 months ago, after my second divorce. I had my first divorce in my 30s, my second divorce in my 40s, and I've got 2 children by 2 different marriages. So I came out of my second divorce literally feeling the lowest that I have ever felt. I went through quite a lot of trauma. I was having panic attacks. I had really bad anxiety. And, I had to really dig deep to get myself back out of the hole that I was in. And when I got there, and it did take a long time, I actually thought, you know what? I'm happy, the happiest that I've ever been. I'm the most positive I've ever been. I became this driven person that wanted to make a difference. And I thought, you know what? I want to use that to help people in our in our situation. There's so many people getting divorced at the moment or having problems within their marriage, and just to tell people that actually you can succeed, you can get from that place of heartbreak to healing with a bit of help and support. And I've just written a book on how to succeed after separation and divorce. My business is growing by the day, and when I'm not working on my business, I'm also a school teacher. In my spare time, I love a bit of yoga. I credit yoga to helping me with my recovery from trauma. And I love walking. At the weekend, I'm from the Midlands. So I'm always in the Peak District at the weekend with my walking boots, climbing up a mountain or two. So that's me, really. It's great. And what about you, Tom?
Yeah, not too dissimilar. I think we've walked quite a similar path, slightly different, but not too dissimilar. Yeah, like you, I came into this area. I spent 15 years in the city running recruitment businesses. So a very, very different way of life, and a very, very different way of working. But like most that I find in this very niche world that we call divorce coaching, it was through experiences of my own divorce that actually brought me to this, and it was quite a journey of reflection, I suppose, in how I work through that, and it's through going through my own training of coaching and various other kind of things like neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, those type of things, that, like you, really helped me reflect and realise what I could action, what I could take responsibility for, what I could be accountable for, how I could change things, how I could improve the situation. But likewise, if I did things differently, how I can actually make it worse. So it's making sure that I'm aware of what I can and can't do and what I should and shouldn't do, and then how to just create this a much more safe and supportive and loving environment for my children. I've only been married once so far. Said that quietly because she's next door and might hear me. I've got 4 kids, 2 from my first marriage and 2 bonus children, stepchildren from with my new partner. So together we're kind of this blended family of 6, 50% of the time. So again, we kind of get that adult time, then get a bit of downtime, and as we get that kind of full-on parenting with 4 kids and everything that brings as well. Like you, bit of a keen walker, not so much the hike. Well, we do hiking, but I don't live near the Peak District, so mine's more just taking the dog out. But I loved your line there that you used actually around heartbreak to healing, which I think is really kind of key to what we're doing. It's helping people to work through it, isn't it, and how they can evolve from that. So I kind of run my coaching practice on my kind of 3 core values of the business, which is understand, evolve, and improve. Because ultimately that's what I'm helping my clients to do. But we can't get to the improvement until they make changes and evolve from what they're doing. But to do that, they need to work back and understand what they have been doing and what hasn't worked, but also what has. So that it's really interesting. And yeah, I've quite like, I don't know if you have noticed this, I keep getting told this, but there isn't very many male divorce coaches out there. In fact,
No.
I've been informed that there's only one.
I know probably a few more than that, but and I think that's one reason why we got together, because we actually connected over social media, didn't we, Tom? And I actually thought, oh, I want to contact this person. And when we got talking, we realised that we got a lot in common. We got lots that we wanted to share. And also we wanted to do these podcasts so we can bring these different ideas and opinions and feelings to the table to help everyone, because, you know, it's not just women that suffer, men suffer as well. And I think actually men don't talk about things as much as women. So I think men suffer in silence. I don't know whether that's been your experience, Tom.
Yeah, they do tend to kind of carry it on them kind of silently, like you say. Multitude of reasons, stigma of got to be strong, can't be seen to be weak, boys don't cry, all that kind of rubbish, which isn't true. To be quite frank with you. So yeah, you do see a lot of men, and a lot of the clients that I work with. I mean, I don't choose to work solely with men. I work with both men and women, and sometimes I work with couples and also just individuals. Maybe because I am a man at the moment, my kind of split is about 70-30, bias to men, not through design at all, just purely by chance. But it's funny you say that, actually, because the first sometimes half an hour, or even 2 or 3 sessions can actually just be trying to get down to them opening up and to tell the real story, not the story they're projecting or want everyone to hear, or what they think they should be saying or doing, but actually what's really going on inside, what they're really thinking, what they're really feeling, and then helping them to kind of cope and manage with that. But I think, like you say, a lot of the time it's that they kind of put these walls up and can't be seen to be talking, things like that. And I think that's also the difference, I suppose, with coaching as well, where it comes at it as a different angle and is, in my opinion, an additional resource to work in conjunction with traditional talk therapies and counselling as well, to actually help people through that process.
Definitely. I mean, I'm the same as you. I've got male clients, female clients, and my work predominantly at the moment is with couples that are going through infidelity, because that's, along with abuse and trauma, that's what I specialise in. And I can remember one of my male clients saying to me, actually having sessions with me was the best thing that he ever did, because he feels now he doesn't feel ashamed. He feels that he can talk about it. And I think, you know, that's what we want to sort of encourage, especially the men, to do through these podcasts, is to actually go and get help and not to suffer and not to feel alone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, well, like we said at the start, the reason we were doing this was to bring different angles and different perspectives and experiences. Obviously, there's a whole host and a whole plethora of topics out there that you and I can cover just from our own experiences personally, as well as working with clients. So it's obviously, sometimes it's around infidelity, sometimes it's not. There's a whole host of things, like you say, traumas and abuse, etc. But likewise, it wasn't just the male and female angle that we were coming at. It was also our own personal experiences. Let's just say, using infidelity as an example, where there's no reason to hide it. I never do. I did have an affair. I did leave my wife for someone else. But then it's also looking at the reasons that are behind that, isn't it? And looking at things of cause and effect, and what wasn't in the relationship, that wasn't working, that I now do have in my new relationship. And much the same for my ex-wife as well, who I'm glad to say I'm very good friends with. But again, like I say, it's about bringing those different experiences, wasn't it? Because you had a very different experience to mine.
Definitely. Definitely. Both my husbands, my first and my second, had affairs and left me for the women that they had affairs with, and they're both married to them women now. You know, for it to happen once and then for lightning to strike twice was is kind of unheard of. And you know, I had to be quite strong about it. And my children have both got their stepmoms now, and you know, I have a great working relationship with both of my exes. Unlike you, Tom, I'm not married again yet. I've got a partner, but we don't live together. So when I'm at home with my children, that's my family. It's me and my children. So, you know, there's going to be lots for us to sort of share with everyone, because it actually, at the end of the day, your family is your family. It doesn't matter whether you're a single person, whether you've got kids, whether you've got a huge family, a blended family, whether you've not been married, it doesn't matter. And we just kind of want to talk about it and tell people that they're not on their own. We kind of want to hold your hand really as you go through this process. It may be that you're finding out, that I'm finding, especially during lockdown, Tom, the second lockdown, that a lot of people are kind of reassessing their marriages and actually thinking, do I want to be in this marriage? Am I happy? You know, affairs are being blown out into the open. People are deciding actually they don't want to be married anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I've had similarly. I actually had a couple come to me quite early on in lockdown after I'd written an article for a parents magazine, and funny enough, they'd actually come to me to say, look, we recognise that it needs to change. We need to work on how we're communicating with each other and how we're learning to compromise and not get stuck into that situation. They actually came to me because they said we don't want to divorce or separate.
Yeah.
But like you say, lockdown has completely changed a lot of people's scenarios and family dynamics, where one was used to maybe work 14, 15, 16-hour days traveling into a major city, and the other one was maybe part-time or was the parent at home, and then furlough happened and it changed, and now the whole family's kind of changed. So it's interesting to see kind of different people's experiences, and like you said, it's kind of the whole point of why we're doing this, is to help people. So for people that do and are watching this, please do get in touch with Fay and I as well, directly to either or both of us, or comment on the videos. And if there's particular topics that you yourselves are experiencing, struggling to really get your head around with, or something that you'd actually like us to raise, but maybe you don't particularly want to, you want someone else to raise it for you, please get in touch, because we want to hear from everybody else and have guest speakers, etc. as well. And I think that's kind of a key. I think it's kind of a key.
I was about to say, we are pre-recording these, but obviously we are planning on doing some live ones. So when we've got a bit of a following, then we want all of our listeners to join in and be asking us questions and to actually getting involved in the discussion. So that's going to be something that's really, really exciting to do.
Yeah. I think the other thing as well is, a lot of times when people, I don't know if you get this, but people say, well, who is divorce coaching for, separation coaching for? And it doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to be married. You don't necessarily have to have been cohabitating. You don't necessarily have to have children. I've had people come to me where they're getting over their first ever breakup, their first love, their childhood sweetheart. They're in their 20s. I've had clients come to me who are in their 60s, and one client in particular even in their early 70s, who had gone for a very different situation where their first partner had left them, their second partner had passed away, and now they're quite lonely. And so it's not just for people that are divorced with kids and things like that. It's for anybody that's going through an experience of feeling isolated, lonely, confused, low confidence, low self-esteem, wanting to rebuild themselves, and really figure out how to do that. But I know that we also spoke around a number of topics there as well. So if there's anything else that other people want to bring up, but you also mentioned there, didn't you, Faye, around not just necessarily the breakup and the negative emotions that come with that, the typical kind of angers, sadness, fear, even guilt, quite a big one as well. I imagine you see that quite a lot of the clients that you work with. But also things like you say, co-parenting together or separately, like you say, how your family dynamic is, through to creating the best blended family environment as well for your children. Another thing that I know that you're very hot on as well is helping people get dating again. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, after again, when I was single again and I moved into the house that I'm in now, I'm sat in my coaching room like you are, Tom, at the moment at home. I started internet dating again, and you know, I'm kind of veering towards 50 now. So you know, for me to be getting back on that bandwagon was quite scary. And I did a lot of dating. I kind of was making up for lost time. you know, what I learned about dating over the 18 months I was dating wasn't really worth knowing, really. You know, catfishing, ghosting, zombieing, it's even one called kitten fishing, breadcrumbing,
What's kitten
bookmarking.
fishing? What is kitten fishing?
Kitten fishing. Well, it's the same as a catfish, but tiny. So catfishing is anyone that's online that is telling a lie. So, you know, there's a lot of profiles on dating apps where they'll say they do this or they're only 30 when actually they're 47. So any lies.
Yeah.
And I had experience of a very big catfish. And that I didn't think we even got to meeting at that stage. But yeah, there's so many different bits of terminology. I had a client recently who was struggling with internet dating. So we're going to have some sessions together over expectations. You know, this whole big thing about what I call having the chat. When do you realize you're exclusive with someone? You know, this person was dating 3 other people as well as me. How dare they? Well, actually, that's quite common now. It's called circular dating. So until you've had what I call the chat is the exclusivity chat, you've got to assume that everybody else is talking to everybody else, dating everyone else, until you've had that chat together. So there's lots of sort of myths and things that I can go over, but it was a fun time. But obviously now I've got a partner, nearly 2 years now. I've settled down quite a bit now. So
have you had the chat?
Yes, we had the chats. Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah, we had the chat very early on. But you know, it was a great learning tool for me because I came out of my second marriage. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know how to feel. And you know, in dating all the people that I dated, it was a great learning experience. I realized the sort of person that would work for me, because let's face it, Tom, when you're going through a divorce, you're not the same person as you were before it happened. You change. I always say to clients, it's like going through the fire and you rise again like this wonderful phoenix. You're a better person, a more aware person. So, you know, I took dating as a learning tool. I met some great friends who I'm still friends with now. But I've also got some horror stories, but we'll save that for another.
Save that for another topic. Yeah. You're right, though. You're a separation, divorce, a major relationship breakup. It really does change you as well. I think one of the biggest changes for me, other than a complete change in career direction of moving into divorce coaching to help others, was actually my parenting. I was always. I used to leave the house at like 6:30 in the morning to get the 7:04 train or whatever it was into London. I used to get home at best 8, maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night. So whilst I was married, I was still in effect a weekend dad. But I've always loved kids. I am a big kid, to be honest with you, still most of the time, in my personal life, not professional life, of course. But I was always a very present parent, even when I was only around most of the weekend. And actually, one of the hardest things that I dealt with when going through my divorce was separation anxiety, being away from my boys.
Yeah.
Because I was then only seeing them every other weekend. And at the very beginning, every other weekend was Saturday morning at 10 o'clock till Sunday 4, 5 o'clock. So not even 48 hours. And obviously there's no school pickups, which admittedly I wasn't doing before. But again, that was one of the other things that I love doing what I do, is that I can fit this in around my world and my life. So actually I can do the school drop-offs, I can do the pickups, I can be there for swim meets and all the rest. Well, not at the minute because of lockdown, etc. And I can actually fit this all around my world, and actually I'm a much more present father. And I think one of the other things is obviously being a step parent as well, which for anybody that's ever said being a parent is the hardest job in the world, it is. Being a step parent is even harder, because the way that you would react to your own children is very, very different to how you react to stepchildren, because especially in the early days, you're trying to form those relationships and that trust and that bond when you are not their parent, and also setting guidelines and rules in your own house and things like that. So it's really, really challenging, because it's such a minefield. But it's one of the reasons why I focus on and do a lot of work with blended families and how to communicate that in the right way with both the children and the parents as well.
It's funny actually, because coming up to Christmas as well, you know, hopefully we're going to do a podcast around surviving Christmas without your children. I can remember the day that I had to send my daughter off to her dad's and his new family for Christmas. It is really, really hard. Letting go of your children is one of the hardest things you will ever have to do if you've got children and you're going through a divorce, because you've got to share them and you've got to give up a certain amount of control to the other parent. And that is really, really hard when you're dealing with everything else. And, you know, one of the things that I've learned, and I'm sure you're the same, Tom, and I say this to my clients, you've got to enjoy being on your own as much as you enjoy being with your children.
Yeah.
You know, you have to reclaim your identity, because when my kids, my daughter especially, when she first started going to her dad, it was like, well, what do I do? I've got nothing to do. I've got no child to look after. And it's like thinking, okay, I've got to find out who I am.
Yeah.
When it happened with my son, I was so used to it. It was like I was waving him off and saying, have a great time. And I got a whole diary packed of social activities. So, you know, I think, you know, going from that place of losing control and feeling guilt, the amount of guilt that you feel for your children, that never goes away, I don't think, entirely. You're always thinking, are they okay? Am I doing the right thing? Are they happy? You know, you will get to that place eventually where you feel, do you know what, I'm doing an all right job.
Yeah, you're right. And you do have those moments. I had one this morning where obviously we have a 2255 arrangement with 4 partners. And for the viewers, I suppose we need to explain that both mine and my partner Donna, our exes, are also a couple now. Well, I say now, they've been for about 3 years. So for us, there's 4 kids between these 4 adults. So the kids kind of go home to home sort of thing. So for us, it was obviously a bit different because there's no one outsider, let's say, on the periphery going, well, hold on, have you thought about this? Or trying to calm situations. It was all of us hugely emotionally invested into this situation, all 4 children being affected. But like you say, you do get those moments, don't you, when I've had a number of clients, this comes up pretty much every single time, where they spend all this time missing their children and wanting to be around them and can't wait to see them, and then they have their week or weekday evening or their weekend or whatever it is in their arrangement orders or in their parental agreements, and then sometimes they're worried that they're then taking it out on the children, and some of that, all the things that they want or should have said or feel they should have said to their former partner all starts coming out. So it all comes out on the children, and then the kids go away again, and they're just you're then left sitting there thinking, well, I can't rectify that now for another 12 days or 2 days or whatever it is. So yeah, it's really challenging. And I think it's about giving yourself a bit of a break and some credit as well sometimes, and recognising what you do.
Yeah, this whole kind of recovery process, isn't it, Tom, is about forgiving yourself and being kind to yourself. You know, if you're going through a divorce at the moment and you're just at the beginning, it's not easy. And if anyone tells you that time will heal, of course time heals. But the reason that people come to a divorce coach is that they want to get to that place of healing and fulfillment quicker. You know, time will work its magic, but if you want time to speed up, that's when you will get a divorce coach involved, because most of the divorce coaches, they've been there, so they know the tricks, they know things that you're going to encounter, they know the blocks, and our job is to get you from that place of heartbreak to healing in the fastest time possible. I don't know about you, Tom, I've had clients after 3 sessions that have said it's turned their life around. You know, it can happen so quickly.
Yeah, no, hugely. And it's about the biggest thing with coaching, I suppose, where it's different, because this is a bit of an education for people as well, isn't it, around what coaching really is, particularly divorce coaching. But for any viewers that have maybe had any kind of business mentoring or business coaching, it's about breaking down your goal, isn't it, and making it actionable and accountable and bite-sized chunks. And even like you say, after 3 sessions, I mean, I've had people that rung me up for a discovery call, a free consultation call, because we both do the same, don't we? We do an initial consultation call for them to see if it's right for them, sort of thing. I've had people in a consultation call going, that's brilliant, do you know what, you've made me think a lot more clearly about XYZ situation, and they've gone off, and some of them I've never heard from again, but they've all gone off and said they've been fine. I've had a couple that have gone off, done what they said they were going to do, and then come back a month or 2 later and gone, that really helped just in that one call, but now this has come up. So, and then we start getting into that process. And like you say, funny actually, when you said about time does heal all, I have I have some clients that have been separated. One person particularly been separated, divorced for about 8 or 9 years, and it still wasn't any further through the process, and it was still as if it was the very next day. So in some instances, time doesn't always heal. It's actually a lot around what we do with people, helping it, making accountable, actionable and responsible steps. Now, it's not to say that it's all your job and all your blame or anything like that, but it is about what you can and can't control, and then what you can do for yourself, not just within the divorce and for your children, but you said, Faye, also what you can do for you. You've now got maybe all this time and you're thinking, well, what do I do with myself? And not really knowing where to start. And like you say, it's about refining you again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, feeling stuck that you can't actually move forward can be a big problem. And you can have months where you think, do you know what, I'm really pleased, I've made this progress, I've got this far. And then you have this period where you don't feel that anything's happening and you feel stuck. And you know, yeah, I think, you know, it's that old adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a drink. As coaches, we do what we can. But if the client isn't prepared to put that effort in, there's only so much we can do. And it is very much you have to. I think I made the decision not long after my second marriage breakdown. I got my house that I'm in now. I was moving forward, and I got up one morning and I literally said to myself in the mirror, that's it now. I'm not going to feel like this anymore, and I'm going to do something about it. And you have to have that kind of that fire in your belly to succeed, to get to that place of healing and fulfillment and acceptance.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it is about that epiphany, or that moment when you realize that you have that want. I want to do it differently. I want to be over this. I want to move forward. I want to engage more positively. I want to get over this anger or resentment or whatever it is. That bit is just the first step. And I don't know if this is a little bit too close to the line to use it as an analogy, but it is a bit like AA or something like that, isn't it? They would say the first step is kind of acceptance of, right, actually, I need to make a change. And that is the first step. Your next steps is finding someone that can help you through that process. And again, that's where divorce coaches come in. I think whenever you're going through separation, divorce, breakup, whatever you want to call it, it's also about getting the right support networks around you. All too often, we obviously, what do we do? When we're going through this situation, we're operating from a place of weakness, whether we are the aggrieved party or not. It's even if you're the person that called time in the relationship, you're still going through something and dealing with something that's very different, of course. You're still going through something. And typically, what do? We turn to our nearest and dearest, our loved ones, our friends, our family, etc. And they build the walls up around us to help protect us. And rightly so, that's brilliant. But it's also about them recognizing when you do want to start making those changes, what's the best positive influence? Who's going to help you more positively? Because it's not always necessary. I mean, you probably see this all the time, and I know solicitors tell me this all the time as well. When you have people in a situation of getting that advice of, well, take the house, take the kids, take the car, etc. Well, what does that then leave for your children? What type of environment are they going to be in when they're at the other parents? And also, how do you want that experience to be for your children? And I think that was my wants, if you like, that waking up in the morning, looking in the mirror type thing. For me, it was, I went through this as a child. My parents separated when I was about 3 years old. And I don't know, they haven't spoken in about 34 years. I think the last time I saw each other was in about 1987 in court. And whilst you could mention the other one's name in front of the other one, it wasn't a nice environment to be in if you did. So nothing against mum and dad if they're watching this now. That's what it was in the 80s, because they were the first generation to really go through this in a mass-produced way, if you like. And I think for the likes of you and I, Faye, and the people that we work with and the people watching this, it's around helping you understand people that you can do it differently. We demystifying this whole, it has to be an us and them and a blame game and a finger pointing and putting other people in the middle. It doesn't have to be like that. And you can come away from it, both of you, in a more positive way. And the biggest thing for me is around seeing that my four collective children, they don't have any affiliations or conflictions to one another parent. There's no protection. They've got full security and safety. They can go to any one of the four of us for anything at any given time and talk about the other parents and whatever it is. And it's about giving them that safe space in that environment, and really to teach them the lessons of how you treat people, how you communicate, how you forgive. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to forget, but how you move forward. We're both parents. A lot of people watching this are probably parents. If you've got more than one child, or even if you haven't, but if you've got more than one child, when your kids are arguing, I don't know about you, but typically after they've had their telling off and been reprimanded, naughty steps, whatever it might be, I did the same as my parents always did with me. It was like, right, kiss and make up, right, be friends. And we teach our kids this lesson, so why should we not do that as adults? I'm not saying we have to go and kiss and make up with our exes, but actually giving each other a bit of respect that these people are always going to be in your lives, especially obviously if you have children, they're always going to play a part in that life. So how do you want that to be? There's something that I think you and I mentioned to you before, and I always say this when I'm working with clients. One of the first things I'll say is, especially if you've got kids, I'll say, right, you figured out that you want to do it the right way. You want to make something, you want to do it more positively. And you've already started to think about co-parenting, that parenting club. Okay, that's great. Let's fast forward 10, 15, 20, 25 years. How do you want to co-grandparent? How do you want your grandchildren's first birthdays and graduations and things like that to go, when there is going to be likely new partners, step siblings, step grandparents? How do you want that to be for them? Not for you, but for them. And it's, like you say, it's about helping people shift those perceptions on ideas and how we look at things and approach things.
It certainly isn't it? And you're right, you know, we're adults and we have to try and act like adults, and we have to put our feelings and our egos and the hurt to one side to actually put our children at the top of the list. I always, and I still am like this today, when I've got my children and my children are with me this week, they're at the top of the list, you know, for them to feel safe and needed and that they can come to me for anything. When my children are at their dad's, I'm then at the top of the list. So, you know, everyone's human. And if you're sitting here thinking, well, I can't do that with my ex, we are going to make mistakes. I certainly made mistakes after my 2 marriage breakdowns with my kids' fathers. You know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. And it's okay to make mistakes, but it's actually saying to yourself and realizing afterwards, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have done that. Because at the beginning of a separation breakup, you know, emotions are running high. And you're going to lash out and say things that maybe you don't want to say, or you look back and think, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I know I certainly did. And I'm okay, you know, I'm sure over the next few weeks and months, we're going to be sharing some of those experiences. And it's all about being aware of that and saying, do you know what, next time I'm going to do this a better way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you will find that you will get there. I really struggled, especially with my second marriage breakdown, having to drop my son off with his now stepmom, because I didn't know her that well. You know, to me, she was the woman who stole my husband.
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat about the bush there, but, you know, as time's gone on, I don't feel like that. My daughter actually has got a great relationship with her stepmom. You know, she will pick her up and take her to doctor's appointments when I can't. We can chat on WhatsApp. And, you know, when I say to my daughter, because my daughter was only 1 when her dad left, when I say, you know, she's 16 now, and I say, you know, do you feel that me and your dad splitting up has affected you? Are you okay? And she actually laughs at me and say, Mom, I don't even remember you and my dad being together. And that's how, you know, it's nice for me to think, well, actually, she's all right. She's done okay. She's got a stepmom who just loves her, thinks the world of her, and she's got a mum. And I think, you know, for kids, having 2, you know, loving families is great.
Yeah, no, we're the same. We actually have a WhatsApp group between the parents called the parents, and it was originally set up with a so and so needs a PE kit or whatever, or so and so's got a dentist appointment on Tuesday at 2:00, and it, like a lot of things, it did evolve over a process of time and bridging communications between all 4 of us, to the point where, obviously not at the moment because it's lockdown, but last summer, I suppose, on a non-kid weekend, me and my partner might have the kids for the weekend. We might have a WhatsApp out of the blue from our exes going, have a nice non-kid weekend, and they're in the pub having a beer and stuff like that. So it wasn't always just about the kids. But again, that it all had to start somewhere, and other people might be watching this going, well, saying, that sounds amazing, Tom, I could never have that with my ex. Neither did we. We didn't think we could. And especially given the situation with all 4 adults and us, and again, it's about those actionable steps, and it just took that one person to make that first step in the process, and that was just as simple as inviting someone in for a cup of tea, and maybe they don't come the first time, but maybe on the third or fourth time they do, and then it's about starting to rebuild those bridges of communication with people. Anyway, we actually said that we were going to try and keep this quite short, and we did say once we started we wouldn't be quiet, but that probably has something to do with my mug. I'm living in a chat box, and it's also chatting makes you feel good.
Okay, yeah,
anyway,
good to talk.
So
I think, Tom, we're going to have lots to talk about over the next podcast that we do. I think, you know, it's going to be good, and hopefully, you know, the people that are listening to us, it's going to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said before, anyone that wants to get in touch with both or either of us, we'll be sharing our contact info at the end of this video once my amazing stepdaughter has edited the video for us, because she's our free social media guru. Thank you, Leonie. But yeah, we'll be sharing our contact info for both Faye and I, collectively and individually. But yeah, if you've got a topic that you want to raise, a question you want to ask, or actually want to find out a little bit more about coaching and find out from both of us about our individual approaches and how we might be able to help you, yeah, do get in touch.